as a kind leader, you have to encourage growth. You cannot have the scarcity mindset, which is a factor installed in all of us. A nice leader prioritizes feelings over standards. A kind leader prioritizes standards over feelings. Human nature, we all wear masks. And many times that can be a good thing, but sometimes what that does is it inhibits authenticity, it inhibits vulnerability. As a leader, you're gonna have to make hard decisions, and there's no way you can appeal and appease everyone. It's just impossible to do.
Remember, adversity is your advantage.
Hey friends, I used to be a nice leader until I transformed into a kind leader. In today's episode, I'm gonna break down the 7 characteristics and traits on how to be a kind leader so that way you can break down and do the same to grow your leadership, to grow your impact, your income, and your legacy, which is the name of the game. Before I get started, my name is Bryce Henson, host of the CEO Show podcast, and today I want to give you a free leadership course I produced on my website. Go to brycehenson.com/leadership, and there you go. So last month, I dropped an episode, the 7 characteristics of a nice leader. So this month, I'm coming to you hot with the contrast. I'm going to color in the details of a kind leader. So again, you can model success. And big picture, the motivation, the differences of the two is niceness often comes the derivative of seeking approval or harmony, where on the flip side, kindness seeks the greater good, even if it's uncomfortable, even if there's conflict, which at the end of the day, conflict arises. That's just a human truth around human nature. So that all said, we're going to dive in. The first characteristics of a kind leader is a kind leader focuses on care and prioritizes the well-being and growth of others, even in the face of unpopular decisions. And when I look at leadership, I think of leadership as both selfish and then selfless. And at the first, it has to be selfish. And if you've ever rode on an airplane before, when you get down, the captain always says, if there's a loss of cabin pressure, then when the masks come down, put your mask on first. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have oxygen, you can't help the people around you. So this is a great analogy of leadership. You need to put your oxygen mask on first. You need to be able to take care of you before you can take care of your following, of your community and your clients. And that is very truth of leadership. So you need to take care of you first, but then once you do, leadership transitions from being selfish to selfless. And that's really when the focus on care of others, care of your following, care of the people that you are guiding them under your leadership abilities. So kind leaders, they focus on care because they put their own needs first initially. Okay, they do the work on themselves, but then big picture, they focus on the care of the organization. So it's important to understand that dichotomy. Characteristic number 2 of a kind leader embraces conflict and provides tough love. And a kind leader is not afraid to have hard conversations, or at least we'll have the hard conversation, even if it's uncomfortable. And before I break down healthy conflict, which is at the root of embracing conflict and leaning into conflict, I learned this dichotomy from a mentor of mine named John Gordon, who is a best-selling author. He's an incredible leader in his own right. And initially, the way I laid down that characteristic was provides tough love. But really what I learned from John Gordon, you need to love tough. And there's a difference. And what I mean by that is, in order to be able to provide feedback and lean into conflict and to do it in a way that's productive, you're following your teammate. They need to know that you love them, that you care about them, that there's compassion there. If you don't, then everything breaks down. And think about from your family dynamic perspective. If you have a spouse or a family member, a loved one, a child, or I guess your children, right? They know, or at least they should, that you love them. There's this deep found love because that's at the root of the relationship. And when you're following, or in your team, or in your family, someone that is close to you knows that you love them, then guess what? You can push the boundaries of conflict. Think about it. The people that you love the most in life, chances are that you push that conflict, that envelope, if you will, that line greater and deeper than someone that you don't. And that's important in leadership, which means that you need to build strong relationships. You really need to love on your people. You need to care on your people, and they need to sense that. They need to know that. And when they do, then you have the ability to lean into friction, lean into conflict, because conflict is neutral, all right? There's healthy conflict, there's toxic conflict. Toxic conflict can be destructive to your organization. On the flip side, healthy conflict can move the organization forward. But all this to say, bring this point home to leadership lesson, kind leadership lesson number 2 is you need to be able to love your people, and you need to ensure they know that to be true. And when you do, then it'll unlock the ability for you to lean into conflict and then really take the potentially toxic conflict, turn that into healthy conflict, and move your relationship and the organization forward. Characteristic number 3 of a kind leader is a kind leader focuses on the long-term benefit, not the short-term benefit. And they consider what's best for the individual's long-term and the team's long-term health and benefit far more than the short-term benefit. And, I can use a couple of examples of this, but the first one that comes to mind is there is a conflict even from a human nature, our goals, our dreams, and aspirations. So say you're wanting to get in six-pack ab shape. You want to lean out. You want to have a great summer body. Well, that's your long-term aspiration. That's your long-term goal. But short-term, that lean chicken salad, okay, does not sound nearly as appeasing as that cheeseburger or that loaded sugar ice cream or tub of ice cream that you want to devour. So there's a conflict between your long-term goals and your short-term goals. And that's leadership, my friend. So when you look at leading your organization, you have to prioritize long-term. You have to play the long-term game. You cannot prioritize the short-term game. And really what that does is there is a conflict there, but kind leaders, they focus on the long-term and they're willing to lean into that friction again, lean into that conflict, which you're going to hear me time and time again. There's just a natural friction and conflict in working with people and working with teams and interactive personalities and I guess relationships. So it's extremely important that kind leaders, that you understand this truth about leadership is that kind leaders will put the long-term benefit and the prioritize way over the short-term benefit. And that is a characteristic number 3. Characteristic number 4 of kind leadership is authenticity. Kindness feels sincere because it's rooted in compassion for others. It's authentic. And one thing I know to be true, and I know you know this to be true as well, human nature, we all wear masks, okay? And many times that can be a good thing, but sometimes what that does is it inhibits authenticity, it inhibits vulnerability. And as a leader, you have to be authentic with your people. You have to be vulnerable. You have to connect with your people. And the way to do this is actually to be transparent, to be authentic. And what this requires, it requires personal growth and self-mastery. About 80 to 90% of leading others, leading an empire, guess what? It's leading yourself first and foremost. If you can lead yourself, then what happens is you gravitate people towards you, okay, versus the opposite. But the only way you're going to be able to do that is when you lead yourself, when you level yourself up, then what happens is you become more authentic, you become more comfortable in your own skin. So the only way that will happen is if you commit to self-mastery, if you commit to doing the work, if you commit to shoring up your weaknesses, resolving your issues. And when you do, what happens is you grow as a person, you grow as a leader, and you have this lightness about you, you have this authenticity about you that attracts people in your following. And my friends, that is a strong characteristic of a kind leader. Characteristic number 5 of a kind leader is a kind leader encourages growth. A kind leader actively supports development, offering opportunities and resources for improvement. And it reminds me of this old adage, if you will. There's an anecdote, a story, a parable, I like to say. And it's a conversation between a CEO and a CFO, the chief executive officer, having a conversation with the chief financial officer. And the CEO, the chief executive officer, is painting the vision for growth, for development, for strong company culture, and providing the vision for development and the training budget, et cetera. And the CFO, as the CFO, the chief financial officer, is auditing the books and seeing all the expense of the growth that the CEO wants to pour in their team, has this freak out moment, scheduled a meeting and says, hey, CEO, I'm concerned here. What if we pour all this resources, pour all this training, growth, and development into our people, and then they leave? And the CEO stops and turns for a second and says, I get that. But in the same token, what if we don't and they stay? And that is an incredible point on the value of growth and leadership. And there is truth to this in the sense that as a leader, you are going to pour into people and you are going to be disappointed. There's going to be some times where you come with the giving hand, you love a lot and you get burned. Me being in the fitness industry for many times, I've had coaches that, ultimately they were young, they were immature, and they left and they, brought clients with them and then, said bad things about either myself or other fellow teammates or the organization. And that hurt. That was not fun, especially after pouring so much growth. And that can happen. It will happen for you as a leader. However, most times what I've learned is that when you develop your people, when you give them opportunity, when you, come with the giving hand and really take a long-term invested interest in their long-term growth, and you provide long-term opportunity, most times they're going to stay with you for the long term. They're going to feel that loyalty. They're going to be very grateful for the opportunities. And it's interesting. I'm just shooting this podcast, and recently a teammate that I worked with for over 10 years has now joined our HQ team. His name is Jake Stewart. He's my head coach. Was my head coach at my Mission Viejo Fit Body location, which is still within the Fit Body Bootcamp brand. But I passed off and I transitioned ownership last year, and Jake now is supporting our HQ team along with his counterpart, if you will, John Gilbo. Two incredible people, but Jake has been working with me for 10 years. Another example of this, Emma Galua, my assistant, she just celebrated her 8-year anniversary with me. So I don't say this to brag and say how great of a leader I am. I'm just saying that if you ask them both and ask them all what type of opportunities, growth, opportunities in training and developments that has been provided to them over the years, they're going to tell you a lot. And when you do that, on average, what happens is you're going to create way more informed, educated, inspired, confident teammates that can do their job better. They get better results, and they're also going to feel a lot more loyalty to you, the leader in the organization. So as a kind leader, you have to encourage growth. You cannot have the scarcity mindset, which is a factor installed in all of us from a human nature perspective. You have to realize, you have to trust the process, realize that when you pour into people, yeah, you might get burned from now and again, but long term, it's going to have way more benefits for them, your entire team, your culture, and most importantly, your clients, because at the end of the day, you as a leader are serving your team, and your team are the one who's serving your clients. Characteristic number 6 of a kind leader is they listen with intent. So beyond just hearing people out, kind leaders engage deeply. They ask questions. They have a curiosity framework, and that's extremely important for you to understand as a leader. And, a lot of times people think of leaders having strong communication skills verbally, me talking on a podcast right now or speaking to a group of people. And yes, there's a lot of communication that is you speaking or communicating outwardly. But on the flip side, as a leader, a lot of communication has to lead within, a lot of the communication has to be from a listening framework. And what I've learned to be true about leadership, especially in my role as you continue to grow as a leader, you're going to have a lot of people underneath your jurisdiction. And right now I lead an international fitness franchise called Fit Body Bootcamp. And we have hundreds of locations, thousands of coaches, tens of thousands of clients across the board. And what I've learned is as my leadership has grown, as my business, the complexity of the business has grown, each of my leaders in their individual departments, they have more skill set, they have more knowledge, than I do in their zone of genius. And what that means is that that's a great opportunity because there's no way as a leader of a big organization like this, I would have the situational authority or the knowledge, the deep level of knowledge in every single department. Think of how many things have to, happen. My dear friend Pablo right now is my lead videographer. This guy is a wizard at making magic. I have no idea even how to turn a camera on, okay? So what that means though is I'm working with him. I need to lean in. I need to listen. I need to take feedback, okay? Hey, Bryce, this angle is going to work, or I think this theme of the episode is going to work, or this shot's going to work better. And certainly I have to have vision and provide guidance, but I also have to learn. I have to listen. I have to listen actively and really source information from the people on my team that know what they're doing. And then what happens is when you do that, when you're able to listen and collect feedback, number one, you make better decisions. Number two, you're showing your team you care, which really leads me to my last point on this point is As a leader, you're going to have to make hard decisions, and there's no way you can appeal and appease everyone. It's just impossible to do. What I've learned, and as a young leader, as a nice leader, I was trying to people please and make sure everyone was happy. And the fact of the matter is there's no way you're going to make everyone happy in your organization, because when you make a decision, some of your people are going to be excited, some of your people are going to be sad, some of your people are going to be pissed off, and that's just the nature of the beast. Even if you make the right decision long term, think about it. If you're parenting your child, okay, and you have your child go to bed at a certain bedtime and brush their teeth, they're not happy with you in the moment, but long term it's for their best benefit, okay? But what I've learned to be true about this in leadership is, even if, okay, you make a decision that your teammate or subordinate doesn't agree with, if you listen to them, if you collect feedback, if you listen intently, they'll actually understand, okay, and they'll feel heard. And when they feel heard, what will happen is they might not like it in the moment, but eventually, as long as your relationship's strong and that you have the best interest of the organization in mind, they'll get behind your decision more times than not. The opposite is also true. If you make a decision, you just railroad things and you don't listen for feedback, if you don't listen intently, if your team does not feel understood, if they do not feel heard, what will happen, okay, is that ultimately, whenever you do make a decision, it's going to break down. So trust me when I say this: when you get out in the force and you're leading your team, you need to listen in, and it's going to happen. You're going to get kickback. You're going to get pushback. That's the nature of the beast. But when you listen, and when you listen attentively, even if you make a decision that goes against what your team wants to do, if you listen first, I promise you're going to have way more buy-in than you don't. So again, the sixth quality and characteristic of a kind leader is a leader who listens intently. And to finish this off, my friends, characteristic number 7 of a kind leader is a kind leader fosters accountability. A kind leader holds people to their standards. In fact, or to the standards of the organization, to your standards as well, that you clearly communicate. A dear friend of mine named Ben Newman, who is a big influencer. In fact, in 2024, he was voted by USA Today as one of the top 5 mindset coaches in the entire planet, next to Brandon Bouchard and Ed Milet and a list of other greats. And he is famously quoted saying in one of his leadership philosophy, standards over feelings. And that's really what it comes down to. A nice leader prioritizes feelings over standards. A kind leader prioritizes standards over feelings. And it's uncomfortable, especially when you have to follow up with the teammate that's not doing the work they need to do. It's uncomfortable to have that conversation, to hold them accountable. But what I can tell you, when you do, even though they might not like it in the moment, they're going to have respect for you. Not only the person, especially when they take action and they get better from it, but your entire organization, your clients will as well. The opposite is true. When you see something, and friends, I've been there. I've been in situations where I saw something as a leader and I didn't hold them accountable. I didn't correct that in the moment. And what happened was it was a disservice to my teammate. But what the message that sent, I didn't say this verbally, but I said that by default, by not holding that teammate accountable, I sent a message to the entire organization that I care about that person's feeling more than I care about holding the standard of the organization, which is a travesty. And that, my friend, is a sign of a nice leader, an effective leader. The opposite is a kind leader who fosters accountability, even though it's uncomfortable in the moment. Trust me when I say this will better your leadership, because kind leadership over nice leadership is the direction and the path that you want to go every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Easier said than done, but the good news is this show, the CEO Show, is committed. I'm committed to making you the better leader, the kind leader that you're destined to become. So friends, I hope you got a ton of value from this episode. And assuming you did, my humble ask is to like and subscribe and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. And that way we can help create a healthy dialogue on what the biggest value you got from this episode. And if you want to continue to learn about leadership, yes, this show is committed to developing you as a leader, but I've also created a free leadership course. If you go to my website, brycehenson.com/leadership, you can opt in and get access to my leadership course. Will give you more insight on my leadership philosophies and also the differences between a kind and nice leader. So check us out there. And remember, adversity is your advantage, and we'll see you in the next episode.